The psychology of Donald Trump. I think that I understand fairly well, quite well, the psychology of Donald Trump because I actually had to deal for a long period of time in my life with an individual who had basically, seems to me, very similar psychology. And this is how I came to understand it. I think that Donald Trump believes that he is smarter than other people. Like he says, he doesn't trust the generals, he trusts himself. And I think he thinks that he's smarter because I think he thinks that he's stronger, that he can push through what he wants. And I think that the major way that he does that is to seek to get a critical mass of people to believe that he's not doing it for himself, he's doing it for them. So his supporters are obviously extremely fervent. And I don't think Donald Trump is detached from reality. I think he's cold and calculating. And I think that he has been conditioned by the way he was raised, perhaps. I mean, it could just be innate, but it seems to be conditioned by his dad also. Some of it is probably innate, to just be power hungry and ignore social norms to get what he wants in an authoritarian type manner. And people ask, what is the end game of this? Like, I think the end game is, I don't think Donald Trump is suicidal. I don't think he would, just lock himself in the White House and, with a gun and say, I'm not leaving. But I think he will do every kind of trick and manipulation to try to stay in the White House. And if forced to leave, I think he probably will leave. But, try to take his quote-unquote, citizen army with him. And I think that, what is the psychology behind this? I think there's a couple factors. I think that Donald Trump might appeal to fundamentalists and say that he believes in God, but I think, I'm not a mind reader, so I don't know what's in Donald Trump's mind, but I think in a general sense, anyone that really has a strong faith doesn't act this way because they realize that they're not in control, that God's in control. I think Trump has so much belief in himself, I don't see how there's any room for God. I mean, it seems pretty apparent to most people that Joe Biden won the election, but Donald Trump is trying to force the country to accept that it's not true. And I think Donald Trump has a big belief in himself. And I think he is putting himself before the country. And I think someone that has such a great belief in themselves doesn't really have room in their life to believe in God, because if you believe in God, there has to be humility, because you realize that God is the controlling power, that God can rise you up or wipe you out in a minute, in a second, in a millisecond. And I think that this lack of humility and this grandiosity in terms of one's own personal effect and power reflects also in his diminishment of other people, that he could just use other people as tools, take advantage of other people, be mean to other people, criticize other people, and that it's okay because he's the most important one. I mean, where does a sense of megalomania come from? I mean, some people say it results from deep-seated insecurity. I mean, I've never spoken to him, so it wouldn't be fair to psychoanalyze him. I can only talk in a general sense. I mean, people that have parents that they can never please, or they feel that they're not good enough, feel sometimes that they have to overcompensate and that they have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are the best of the best. And I think that most people come to a point where they're able to accept themselves for their flaws and for their not living up to the standards of another person, but some people can't do that, either because their sense of self and self-worth and self-esteem and self-security is not high enough. Like, most human beings have a will to power. They want to be, king of the hill, but most have a sense of, I was going to call it decency or humility. Most have a sense of temperance, that to realize that what we want is not always what we could get. I mean, some people feel that they could get whatever they want, they deserve whatever they want just because they deserve it. I mean, some people call it narcissism, arrogance. I would call it also entitlement, that just because I want it, I deserve it. I mean, there's a distinction there. There's a distinction between what you want and what you deserve. But people that have an incredible sense of entitlement, they don't see any distinction. They believe that I deserve it because I want it. So you could argue that in a general sense, and again, I've never met Trump, so I haven't spoken to him, but just watching him as president, you can come to your own conclusions that sometimes people, that are at that level where they haven't really differentiated themselves to realize that we're in this world to be of service, and that I have to respect other people and their independence and their, not only respect, but appreciate. I mean, you get much further in life if you really appreciate other people, because when you try to force other people, then you just get counterforce. And I think Donald Trump is smart enough to have built up a lot of love and respect in his followers, and I give him credit for that, because he has tried to nurture them, but sometimes he's tried to nurture their less than best instincts. And I think that you can nurture people in a healthy or an unhealthy way. And I think that, in some ways he tries to be healthy because he tries to, people that don't have much in life or have had a lot taken from them, he tries to reassure them that they are worthy and they are good, and that's important. But is he trying to reassure them for them, or is he trying to reassure them to get their loyalty so that they'll serve his purposes? And you could argue, based upon whatever you believe to be true. I don't believe that Donald Trump is evil, but I do believe that he may be corrupt in the sense of like trying to use the government for his own ends. And I think that, there's a lot of disturbing and possibly dangerous. When I say dangerous, I mean that I think it is a threat to our democracy when someone doesn't respect the norms of government.